Welcome to the Twisted Tentacle Inn. I'm your Innkeeper, and today we're going to be completing our wizard rankings list. As with previous videos, I'll be ranking the subclasses from worst to best. As I mentioned before, I believe the wizard is the strongest class in the game of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, so even the worst wizard subclass as a whole package is still going to be better than most other, or than the average subclass within all of the classes in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Today's list is my top 4 wizard subclasses, and I ranked them based mostly on mechanics, and a bit of weight for flavor, lore, and roleplay capabilities. And the level 2 ability has a very big amount of weight on my rankings because it's the ability that you're going to be using most throughout your adventuring career. The capstone, or the level 14 ability, has a very low weight in my rankings because most campaigns don't really go past level 13. So you'll probably never see this ability anyways. Alright, with all that said, let's start with my choice for the number 4 best wizard subclass, and that is the Enchanter. The Enchanter is sometimes overlooked, but it has some really cool control and defensive abilities. The later ability to double your targets for charms type spells is really good, and a few other abilities are going to be very good in this one. So let's go ahead and talk about the Enchanter. At level 2, you gain Hypnotic Gaze. This is one of my favorite second level abilities for wizards because of the roleplay possibilities and the mechanical benefits. You can use an action to force a creature within 5 feet to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. If they fail, their movement drops to 0, they're incapacitated. Basically, it's a resource-free way to take a creature completely out of a combat. They remain incapacitated until the end of your next turn, and you can continue the effect without forcing additional saving throws. All you have to do is use an action to maintain the effect. So once you've got them, you've got them. Some people do take issue with the fact that you have to be within 5 feet of the creature, which can potentially put you in danger. But if you plan ahead, you can minimize your risk. For example, you can move in, try to charm. If that fails, then you can use a bonus action to cast Misty Step and get away. You can also find ways to boost your defensive capabilities so you're not such an easy target. Once you have the creature charmed, nothing is going to undo it because it's not a spell, so it can't be dispelled, it can't be counterspelled. It's not concentration, so they can't break your concentration. Basically, something's going to have to completely knock you unconscious to be able to end the effect. Since keeping the effect going every round takes your action, it's probably a good idea to set up a concentration spell before you use it so that you can have even more impact on the combat. I recommend using something like a summoning spell. It's going to give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of tactics. You can have something that can change around and move around, do attacks, take defensive actions and such if necessary. You can also cast bonus action spells while you're maintaining this effect, so I would recommend packing a lot of those as necessary. This ability is very strong, but it does have its limitations. First, it ends if you move more than 5 feet away from a creature that you're trying to charm. If they can't hear or see you, it also ends. It also ends if the creature takes damage. The important thing to note is that if you move more than 5 feet away, the effect ends immediately, which means it's no longer going to last until the end of your next turn. This is important if, for example, the creature is after you in initiative order because they're going to get to move and take actions on their turn against you. If they succeed their saving throw, you can't attempt to use the ability again on the same creature until you finish a long rest, but you can still try again against other creatures, so that's really awesome. And despite the limitations, I think this is a really strong ability and it can impact combat tremendously. Also, it can save you a ton of spell slots. So the Enchanter is already awesome with this ability, but it gets even better as you get more abilities. At level 6, you get the Instinctive Charm ability. Another great ability, it has no limit on number of times that you can use it, which is awesome. If a creature within 30 feet attacks you, basically you can use a reaction to force it to make a wisdom saving throw. Otherwise, it's going to target someone else. So this can save you from like potentially deadly blows. And the best part is that you can keep using it on the same creature as long as they keep failing that saving throw. If they succeed, you can't use this ability on them again until you finish a long rest, which makes it a little bit more balanced. But otherwise, you can keep doing this over and over every single round if you wanted to, as long as they keep failing. Now, if a creature has multiple attack, yeah, they can still target you with a secondary attack. They also have to attack a creature that's closest to them, which could be one of your allies, so that kind of sucks for them. And it says you have to choose this before knowing if the attack hits or misses, but it also says you use this after the creature makes an attack roll against you. So I'm assuming if they roll a natural 20, you can still use this ability and possibly avoid a critical hit, which is really actually awesome. Keep that in mind. Check with your DM, see if they'll allow that, but based on the wording, I think that is how it's supposed to work. At level 10, you get another fantastic ability called Split Enchantment. Basically, enchantment spells above level 1 that target one creature now can target more than one creature. They can target two creatures. So this makes spells like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Hold Person, and Suggestion really potent spells. Being able to target two creatures with one of these spells instead of one really can turn a combat around to your favor very, very quickly. Even better, let's say you cast Hold Person on two creatures and they fail their saving throws. On your next turn, you can use Hypnotic Gaze on a third creature and take a total of 3 creatures completely out of the fight. Now think about how powerful that is. You can even take, say, Magic Initiate and take Dissonant Whispers, which also works with this ability. So that's fantastic. You can do 2 creatures with Dissonant Whispers. Wow, that's awesome. It's just too bad that the level 14 ability is pretty lackluster in that you can just alter memories. Being able to force a creature to forget some of the time that it was charmed, yeah, it can have its uses, but those uses mostly fall under the situational category. Let's just put it that way. But honestly, the other abilities are so good, and most people rarely get past level 13. It's not really that impactful on the overall effectiveness of this subclass. The Enchanter is so good that I considered placing it higher on the list, but the truth is that the top 3 are just a bit better in different ways, and they beat it out for the higher spots just barely. If you ever get a chance to play an Enchanter, take that chance. Trust me, it's going to be a ton of fun playing him, and you'll really like this subclass once you get the hang for it. Number 3 on my list is Divination. This is one of the strongest wizards and my number 3 pick for most powerful. A lot of people rank this subclass as number 1 for their pick for most powerful wizard subclass, but I don't. And the main reason is that the second level ability, Portent, which I think is their strongest ability, is somewhat able to be replicated with the Lucky feat. I know there's a difference. I know that with Lucky, you can just re-roll. You don't know what your roll is going to be, and that's a bit different than Portent, where you know the outcome. But with Portent, you have to use it before the roll, which makes it lose a little bit of its oomph. It's still strong, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's the strongest ability in the game, and Lucky is close enough that I think it can be somewhat of a replacement. So picking another subclass and picking Lucky is going to get you probably an even stronger wizard than just picking this subclass alone. If you're a wild man, though, you can pick Lucky, select the Halfling race for the Lucky trait, and then also the subclass, and it'll be pretty hilarious. Your Dungeon Master is going to hate you, but I think it'll be pretty funny. Anyway, at level 6, you get another great ability with Expert Divination. This one gives you unlimited casting of divination spells. This one's very strong for its level. Divination spells cast at the right time could turn the tide for your quest. This is one of the strongest abilities for its level in any wizard subclass, but the situational nature of divination spells bring it down a few notches and prevent this from being broken. At level 10, you get the Third Eye. This one is good, but it's kind of situational. Being able to see in the dark, ethereal creatures, invisible creatures, and that kind of thing, it's handy when you need it, definitely, but in every game I've played, having this would have come in handy just literally a couple of times throughout the entire campaign. So, that's that. And finally, at 14th level, you get an extra use of your Portent ability. Having one more use is nice, but other wizards get better abilities, like the Abjurer gets advantage against spells and resistance to spell damage. So clearly a few other wizard subclasses have more powerful capstones. Is Portent useful? Yeah. But a single use added, it doesn't even come close to what a few other wizards can do at 14th level. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, imagine the things that you can do that's limitless, the situational benefits of being able to just know what die is going to come out on a certain roll 3 times per day. Yeah, I get it. But still, there are better 14th level abilities, in my opinion. So my thoughts on the Diviner, basically, it has a very strong level 2 feature, but their abilities are pretty average in later levels. It's not necessarily a big issue, and it's why this subclass is still ranked very high on my list. But after hitting 2nd level, there's no abilities I think that are going to have you going, I can't wait till I reach this level so that I can do this thing. Which is why it just makes 3rd place in my book. All right, down to number 2. For number 2, I've selected Chronurgy. This subclass has some really solid abilities and access to a few more spells than your typical wizard. So, like the Graviturgy wizard, the Chronurgy wizard was released with the book Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. This means that the Chronurgy wizard is a class that is tied to that setting, and you should probably ask your dungeon master if they want to allow it in the game. But since the book is an official product for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I'm including the subclass in my rankings. I want to start off by saying that Chronurgy has access to some spells that no other wizard has access to. These spells can be found in the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount book, and I'm not going to really be talking about them in this ranking video, but I wanted you to know that there are some spells that are very good, and I am factoring that into the ranking for this class as well. All right, so let's look at some of their abilities. At level 2, the Chronologist gets the Chrono Shift ability. Twice per day, you can use your reaction to force a creature to re-roll an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. This is really good. So the Diviner ability is a little bit more versatile because you know what the outcome of the roll is going to be, and it doesn't require your reaction to use it. But that doesn't mean that this one isn't good. It's still pretty potent. And in addition to that, at 2nd level, you get the Temporal Awareness ability, which, like the War Wizard, gets you a bonus to initiative equal to your intelligence modifier. And we've already talked about how good that is. So even though the level 2 Chrono Shift is not as good as, say, the Diviner, you get an additional ability that is really good. So you have 2 really good abilities already right off the bat at level 2. At level 6, you get the Momentary Stasis ability, which is going to let you use an action to cause a creature within 30 feet to make a con save against your spell save. And if they fail, they're incapacitated until the end of your next turn. So again, this one also reminds me of another wizard subclass ability. This one reminds me of the Enchanter wizard ability because you can incapacitate someone till the end of your next turn. Very similar. This one doesn't require you to be within 5 feet. In fact, that 30-foot range is really good. And you can move away from the creature, so you can move further away without ending the effect. So that's really good. The thing is, you can't continue the effect unless you use the ability again. So, and you have a limited number of uses. So not only do they have a chance to succeed against your save on the 2nd try, but you're using up a limited resource that you have for the day. So you get this at level 6. The Enchanter gets theirs at level 2. There are some things that are better in this one. There are some things that are better in the Enchanter. So overall, I think, though, that the fact that you get it at level 6 is a little bit of a downer. But, they're already getting really awesome 2nd level abilities. So I'm not going to ding them too much for that. So, and the other thing, it uses a Constitution save instead of a Wisdom save, which usually it's a little bit easier for bad guys to succeed on. So, overall, I think the Enchanter ability is a little bit more powerful, but, the 5-foot limitation makes it harder to pull off than this one that has a nice 30-foot range. So to conclude on the level 2 ability, or on the level 6 ability, I think the level 2 Enchanter ability is very good. I also think this ability is very good. So incapacitating an enemy is very helpful, especially in a tough combat. And it can be the factor that turns the tide for your group. So overall, I'm not saying this is bad just because it has a few more limitations. than the Enchanter one. It's still very good. Anyways, at 10th level, you gain the Arcane Abeyance ability. This one is amazing because it's a way to concentrate on 2 spells at once, in a way. You create a bead that stores a spell of level 4 or lower, and you can give it to anyone. And it's going to use your spellcasting modifier, but it's going to use their concentrations, which is awesome. So there's so many uses for this, especially if you have a lot of party members that don't use spells at all. You can just give them the bead and have them use their concentration, which they're not going to be using anyways. So that's really good, and makes this pretty damn powerful, to be honest. It's, I think, one of the strongest 10th level abilities that wizards get in the game. And then level 14, you get the Convergent Future ability. This one is a worse version of the Diviner's Portent. You use your reaction and decide if a creature succeeds or fails by 1 on the die when they make an ability check, or an attack roll, or saving throw. So the issue I have with this ability is that most of the time, creatures are going to have a modifier to their die roll, and it's usually a positive modifier. So basically, you're going to mostly be using this for your fellow party members to ensure that they succeed on a roll. And if you're trying to use it to ensure failure on an enemy, you're going to find that it's not going to work as often as you think. If the enemy, if they need a 15 to save and you make the die a 14, but their constitution bonus is a +4, they still saved, right? Because this just shifts the die roll, not the total amount, including modifiers. So that's what makes this a little bit less powerful than you would think. It's good to use on your allies, and I think that's mostly what you're going to end up using it for. And the other thing is you get a level of exhaustion when you use it, so it has a really harsh drawback. It can be really game-changing when it's used, so I totally get, why the penalty is there, and it makes it so that this ability is not stronger than other 14th level abilities, so I totally get it. To finalize the Chronurgy Wizard, it's a really fun subclass. It oozes with flavor. I love the feel of being able to control time and stuff, the theme of it. I really like its abilities. They're all reminiscent of abilities from other classes, which is really cool, but they're different enough that they kind of have their own identity. The cool thing is that even though a lot of the Chronurgist abilities invoke reminders of other wizard abilities, they're all great abilities, and it kind of feels like the Chronurgist is kind of like a best of wizard subclass. So they're really powerful. It came really close to being my number 1 best wizard subclass, but there is one wizard subclass that, in my opinion, still stands above the rest, and that would be the Abjurer. At 2nd level, you get the Arcane Ward. This one is a huge boost to survivability. Basically, it's a shield that can tank twice your wizard level plus modifier in hit points. That's good on its own, but the fact that it stacks with temporary hit points, it like what you get with casting False Life, it means that you can tank quite a lot of damage. And the best part is that when you cast Abjuration spells, it recharges. So this is a really cool feature that that the Abjurer gets at 2nd level. And it scales with level, which is great. At level 6, you can use your ward on your allies now, so up to 30 feet away. That's pretty awesome too. And it pretty much cements you as the protector for your party, especially since you probably won't be taking as much damage as some other frontline combatants. The only issue I have with this is that it uses your reaction, and a lot of the great Abjuration spells at higher levels require your reaction. So there's a conflict with your action economy there with that. But most of the time, if you're going to be facing grunts or an enemy spellcaster. So the choice of using this ability or saving your reaction for a counterspell is usually not a more difficult one. At level 10, you get Improved Abjuration. And this one allows you to add your proficiency bonus to spells that require an ability check. Simple, great. This is awesome for spells like Counterspell or Dispel Magic, because with that bonus, you're basically going to be able to counter spells of higher level without the need to upcast your counterspells and your dispels. This saves your more powerful slots for what they were intended for, making you a very potent anti-wizard. At 14th level, having advantage to saves versus spells and resistance to all magic damage is so good. am not weighing the level 14 ability too highly, but this one is an absolute bomb of an ability. Basically, it solidifies the Abjurer as the anti-spellcaster. What makes it so good is that all the wizard subclasses, this is the one that is the most useful for high-level play. A majority of Tier 3 and Tier 4 enemies have some sort of magic, and unlike lower levels, at these high levels, you're very likely to be facing magic or spells at some point during your adventuring day, every single day. So every ability gained by Abjuration wizards is really useful. Every new ability is also more powerful than the previous, so it gives a real sense of growth in power. What's even better about the Abjuration wizard is that they become even more important as the party gains levels, because you tend to encounter even more powerful spellcasters at higher levels, and you're the one that's going to be able to protect your party from that. And, as most of you, I'm sure, who have played high-level games know, spellcasters can absolutely decimate your party if they're not kept in check. And so this makes the Abjurer the most powerful wizard subclass, in my opinion. And that does it for my wizard subclass rankings. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are there some subclasses that you would put in a different position than I would? I'm sure there are, actually. Let me know how you would rank them. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your reasonings for them, and maybe you'll change my mind. Who knows? Oh, one thing about wizards that's really weird, they're based on intelligence, right? So magic is based on intelligence and reading books and such. But wizards are always depicted as old men, which old men tend to be more wise than intelligent. So it's usually like younger guys that tend to be intelligent because they're hungry for knowledge. As you get older, you tend to be set in your ways. Anyways, I'm getting a little too philosophical about it here. So thank you very much for watching. I am your Innkeeper. And if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, leave them
down there
in the comments below. And as always, I am your Innkeeper from the Twisted Tentacle Inn. Check in anytime. I'll talk with you then. My number 2 pick, the Chronurgy Wizard. Hey Google, turn on the above lights. All right, down to number 2.